Based on a special request from my friend Marty, I decided to do a review of the song Spirit in the Sky, 1969 by Norman Greenbaum, and look into that song and find out a little bit of the interesting background on it and maybe some of the background on the music and why this is such well, it's a completely upbeat, spiritual, religious song. That's one thing we have to all agree upon. But there's just something so resonating. You just don't forget the song, and it's unique in its sound and its vibe, and yeah, and it's great that it's a spiritual song to boot. And the author was a guy named Norman Greenbaum. And doesn't that sound Jewish? Well, he was Jewish. He wasn't even a Christian, but he sort of had an ironic sense of humor, and he thought it was kind of funny in a good way that he could do a song about Jesus. So he did that, and so he explained to the Rolling Stone in January of 2020 at age 77 some of the background of the song. So I kind of did some clips of the various things, and the song was released in January 1970, and it was propelled by a chugging bluesy riff and featuring lyrics about befriending Jesus and preparing for death. It peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was certified gold. And then it's been in a variety of different movies, and I thought just an homage to one of those, Apollo 13, I would just put that on for a second and just get a feel for how this has become part of pop culture. 50 years. 50 years. Wait, let's take 1970. Let's say it's released then. 2020. This was 50 years ago, and the movie Apollo 13, I think, was a decade ago. So maybe 40 years after it was released, this song still resonated with all the old fogies like myself, born in 19, well, I won't even tell you when I was born, but I was a teenager in 69, right? Well, I think I was about 12 or so. Anyway, so or close to that. So let's just watch a little bit of an excerpt from Apollo 13.
Okay, one of the first things we'd like to do is provide you with the appropriate background music. So, hit it there, Fredo. That was supposed to be in 2001 in honor of our command module
When I die and the limits of rest,
Okay, I think that gave us a little flavor of the movie and of the, song itself, and good reminder to those who remember the song. Um, but anyway, what, I liked the interview of Greenbaum, particularly about was when they would bring up his Jewish background, because I didn't even know that. I assumed he was Christian with a Jewish name. So he talked to them about how a Jew who managed to write a song about Jesus and why the song's use of Apollo 13 blew his mind, and tells us what he's up to these days. Um, and so basically, he came about the title song by looking at a greeting card, and it said Spirit in the Sky on the greeting card. And then he saw on the card was American Indians sitting in front of a teepee, and the fire was going on, and they were looking spiritually towards the heavens, and apparently they were worshiping the spirit in the sky. And he says he think it was the Hopi Indians, but he doesn't really know. And then he'd also been watching a televangelist named Porter Wagoner, and he did a religious song halfway through his show. And one day he did a song about a miner that was up in the hills digging for gold. He hadn't been to church for a very long time, and years had gone by, and he decided it was time to go back. So he took his viola, came all the way back into town, and when he got to the church, there was a note on the door, and the pastor's note said, "This the pastor's on vacation." It was sort of like, when you're ready, God's already moved on from you. So it's just, the irony kind of, I think he likes a sense of humor. And then he merged this all with his feelings. It's sort of a eclectic thought processing here. And he said he remembered watching cowboy shows when he was a boy, and the bad guys always wanted to be buried with their shoes on. So they would be asking as a favor, "Can I die with my shoes on?" Yeah, I remember there were movies about that. So for some reason, he put this all together, and this is what motivated him to write the song. And he said that he'd written some oddball songs before, and some serious songs, but he thought he could do it. He sat down and he said it all came together. And one line got Christians upset, some Christians upset. It's where he says, what does he say? Oh, the line, "I've never been a sinner. I've never sinned." Okay. So, I mean, there's some doctrinal justification for that. And I thought that's what he was saying is, when Christ covers you with his atonement, then you aren't seen as a sinner. So we can understand that for forgiven of sin based on repentance, turning to God, that Christ's blood atones for us. So God doesn't see our sin at that moment. If we sin again, that's where you get doctrinal disputes between Paul and Jesus. Jesus would say, "You are seen sinning." And Paul says, "No, you're not. You're eternally secure." But let's not get into doctrine here. That's how different people can hear the same song and get different thoughts from it. I'm just telling you, he got a pushback on that, and I find that interesting. Even though doctrinally that seems to be acceptable in Protestantism, I'm not sure how Catholics look at it. And then he said, he thought by doing that, by putting that line in there, it was kind of like poking a little hole, a humorous hole, and take a little seriousness out of religion, just like that is what he said. But he didn't do it as a joke or against anyone. He actually said, "I was thinking about that plastic Jesus on the dashboard." So again, he thinks very eclectically and loosely about why he would put things. So a very deep song, a very profound song, but now at age 77, it doesn't seem like he remembers anything very profound when he was doing this. And that's fine. I mean, when you're a young person, you can come up with some words and lines that, as you age, you no longer even remember why you said it. So all of those of us who are getting old, just try to remember to hold on to your what you were thinking when you were young, so you can explain your spiritual present. Anyway, so he seems like a nice enough guy, but at age 77, I think he's a little bit off his game a little bit. He mentions a few churches have put it on their services, and they sing it quite often. And there's some examples of that on the internet. And then he had this interesting fuzz pedal that's in the song, and it's unique because the guy who made it, he kind of moved away, and nobody could find him, and it was a one-off thing, and it fit into his guitar, and he disappeared after that, and it's basically never been able to be used since it broke down and he couldn't use it again. So so it's a fuzz tone box that's unique and created a unique sound. And as he puts, I think he puts it down. Yes, it's gone down. The fuzz tone you heard, actually you heard in that Apollo 13 clip. It's sort of a it's the guitar, but it has this sort of grindy, fuzzy sound to it. And he said it's gone down as one of the top 5 guitar licks that you can recognize at a split second. All right, let's see what else he has here. And then he said this, I thought this was interesting. The microphones that the producers used and just the way we put ourselves in the studio and the sound came, it was almost like it was predestined. I wonder if he knows what he's saying. And he says it was actually mind blowing. Right from the beginning, just sent shivers up your spines, our spines, the people playing in the band doing this and the artists who were singing on it. So that's kind of interesting. This is the kind of song that does that. It's like the national anthem kind of thing, or things that get you emotional. This is one of those songs that can do that. And so for those of you who've never really heard this song, I hope you'll hear the whole song in a little bit, and with the lyrics up on the screen so you can follow along and sing it as you wish. Okay, before I let the ending of Apollo 13 to take us out, I wanted to read you what he said about he was raised Jewish. So the question was, "And you were raised Jewish, right?" Rolling Stone asks him, and he says, "I was. I don't follow it, and haven't for quite a few years. People get mixed up on how and why I would write a song like that," meaning about Jesus. "But my answer has always been the same, which is, I'm a writer. Writers make things up. If you write songs, you write things from your heart. Although this was religious, I felt I had the right to attempt to write it." So he just had a simple idea and wanted to execute it, and I think we're all blessed for it. It's upbeat, it's positive, it's and it's very much part of its time and place. I thought I would play just before we go into the Apollo 13 ending, because we're going to play the other half of the clip, just so you can see the original release song that he did, and you can see the '60s vibes. And for those people who didn't live through it, you'll get you're gonna look back at those people and just remember a war was still going on. It was raging in Vietnam, and it didn't look like there's any end in sight. And I think it was eventually in '71, '72, after some sort of attack on Cambodia. Can't remember what it was all about, but something that led to peace, and then it stopped. Thank God. All right. Anyway, so here we go. We're going to take a look at the the original video.
When I die and I lay me to rest, gonna go to the place that's the best. When I lay me down to die, going up to the spirit in the sky. Going up to the spirit in the sky. That's where I'm gonna go when I die. When I die and I lay me to rest, I'm gonna go to the place that's the best. Prepare yourself, you know it's a must. Gonna have a friend in Jesus. So you know that when you die, he's gonna recommend you to the spirit in the sky. Won't recommend you to the spirit in the sky. That's where you're gonna go when you die. When you die and you lay you to rest, you're gonna go to the place that's the best.
Okay, so I just wanted to say thank you for visiting, and I hope this was interesting you. As he says, this is one of those songs where it'll stick in your head. And I'll now let Apollo 13 take us out, and we're literally going out of this world into the heavens. So it was an appropriate song in that movie. And that was a place where I'm sure every one of those guys on that ship were worried they were never coming home again. So it was an apropos song, so to speak. Okay, so God bless. Take care. Enjoy this ending.